Hello folks, this is Jack, and I am going to be providing a response here to Dark Matter 2525's video called The Real God in Epiphany, and just giving you some of my thoughts here. Of course, I'm open to hearing your critique, your reasoned critiques and replies to these thoughts that I'm presenting. One of the critiques that I have is his use of the word atheist. The fact is that atheists here on YouTube do not have an agreed upon understanding of what that word is. In his video, it would have been appreciated if he would have really sort of explained the use of the word atheist as he meant it. In other words, can we think of a context in which a Christian saying to an atheist, "You reject God," is actually an appropriate use of the word reject? And I would say yes. Secondarily to that, regarding the word reject, my impression of the way that he uses the word reject is he commits the fallacy of equivocation. I don't like bringing up the word fallacies, okay, because it becomes an endless game. But my point is this: the fact is the word reject can be used in a variety of different ways. We all know this. We can use it as it relates to an idiom, that is an expression, such as when we have you're attracted to someone and they're not attracted to you, you may feel rejected. We use that expression, the word reject, to sort of convey that experience that occurs there. Now, is the word reject being used in the similar way when a Christian says to an atheist, "You reject God"? That is to say, are they using it in a sort of relational type of way? I would say by and large here on YouTube, and from my experience, no, they are not. What they are asserting is, essentially, you do not believe X is the case. In other words, one way to really get a more clear and concise and precise understanding of what's going on regarding the word reject as Christians use it is to use informal logic. I know that a lot of people don't like to do this sort of things. You guys get frustrated. You say it's a language game. So be it. Spare me your comments, because basically you invite ignorance. You want to remain ignorant. I have no desire to do so. I want to gain understanding. I appreciate these sorts of tools that we have that we can use with reference to language. If you don't, then don't watch my videos. Don't watch my channel, okay? So in informal logic, I can say X is the case. Now, if you say X is not the case, the way that I could convey that using language, English, is saying you reject X to be the case. X is the proposition. In this case, God is the proposition. So in a way, of course, I can say, you reject God. You do not believe in God. These are manners of us conveying that you do not hold the same propositions, assertions, beliefs to be true that we do. I really don't see it to be any more complicated than that. This whole idea of dark matter somehow trying to connect this word reject with some emotional state with dark matter trying to say that the use of the word reject, when I say an atheist rejects God, is nothing more than sort of a masked expression of the word reject as it relates to me being in wanting to be in a relationship with someone and they reject me as being somehow sort of a similar thing. I find it to be complete nonsense. Are there some instances in which a Christian may feel a sense of anxiety or frustration when they talk with someone who disagrees with them? Of course. This is my other critique of his video, is instead of him acknowledging the fact that all people on both sides of the aisle experience anger, frustration, passive aggressiveness, antisocial behavior, we all engage in these sorts of behaviors as it relates to our use of language and how we express ourselves. And you know what? Dark matter, though, he didn't want to do that. He just hammered on theist, like theist. And despite what he says about how he wasn't speaking about all theists, he presents it in his video as being all theist. My other critique is this whole idea that God is nothing more than a person's ego. Where does he get off? I mean, that of course, that's not an argument for anything. I mean, it's an assertion. It's his sort of theory that he has behind something, but the theory itself is flawed because it's built upon this equivocation that goes on. That is to say, he uses the word reject as it related to that relationship and imposes it upon the usage of the word reject as it relates to me saying you reject God. which are two entirely different things. When I say you reject God, all I'm saying is you reject the proposition that God is the case. Would I say in a relationship that the person, Anthony, rejects the proposition that Teresa is the case? It doesn't even make any sense. Because they're two distinct ways of speaking about two separate sorts of things. Our interaction in relationships and the beliefs that we hold to be true. Of course, there's going to be emotions involved in the beliefs that we hold to be true. I mean, what is that? So what? I mean, I experience anger in this situation. I experience, happiness in this situation, and in a variety of situations. Duh. I mean, that's common. But once again, dark matter wants to make it sound like, it's just the theist engaged in these sorts of tactics. The fact is, I have had atheists say to me, Jack, I am sorry for you. I feel sorry for you that you don't have the truth. I feel sorry for you that you reject logic, that you reject rationality. I have had atheists that use the word reject in the same way. I understand clearly what it is that they're trying to say in most instances. All they're saying is, Jack, I have an idea, I have a belief about what truth is, about what reality is, and you don't hold it to be true. They use the word reject in this instance in some means, when they say, I feel sorry for you, this is nothing more than sort of this condescending use of language to sort of, demean your opponent. And, of course, people who are religious are going to use religious sorts of language and utilize it as a means to demean their opponents. Of course, you find some Christians, being stupid and saying, I'll pray for you because I feel so sorry for you. And they're not saying it out of sincerity. They're saying it out of as a means to elevate themselves and make themselves, I'm better than you. I'm more spiritual than you. I'm a good person. And so they're attempting to demean you. Of course, this is a reality. The same, however, is the case for atheists. Atheists use language in the same exact ways. Of course, not all atheists, as in the same way, not all theists. Some atheists, they'll use language, they'll be like, I'm rational. You're not rational. I'm a strong person. Jack, you're a weak person because you need to believe in God. You're a delusional person. You're an irrational person because you reject XXX. You reject XYZ. You reject whatever propositions. The theists are doing the same things. You're not a good person because you reject proposition this. You're not blah, blah, blah. You reject. I mean, both sides do this. So I'm really frustrated, really just because of how dark matter presented this video in a clearly biased, one-sided sort of way, and if it's not about truth. His video was not about the truth. If it was about the truth, in my estimation, if it was about being intellectually honest, he would have acknowledged the fact that this is a problem with people. This is an issue of how people will use language as a means of being demeaning and condescending towards other people. Regarding the whole usage of the word reject, once again, I'm repeating myself, I think he just misunderstands how this usage of the word reject is commonly used. Of course, not in every instance, but commonly used when the Christian says you're rejecting God. All they're saying is you do not accept this assertion to be the case. You do not accept that the Christian God is real. There's so many different ways of saying it, but once you get down to informal logic, which he doesn't use, it really clears it all up. It's really not that confusing, and you really can figure out how everyone is using language in very manipulative sort of ways. They play the language game very well. They try to use the power words on both sides of the aisle. It's a people problem. Get used to it, learn how to recognize it, and stop stigmatizing your opponent using these crappy arguments. That's all I gotta say. Peace.